most humans on the planet, how conscious are they?
In today's world?
Yeah, in Los Angeles. You spend time here.
Let's take the whole world. I don't want to make a judgment on Los Angeles. In the whole world, it's unfortunately a very minuscule percentage, minuscule. Why is this so? Why is it people are not conscious? The fundamental reason is they have taken themselves too seriously. They don't understand that they're just a pop-up on the planet. They'll pop up and pop out, but big fuss about that. What is me has become too important. What is me means my physical form is me, essentially, isn't it? So, once my limitations become very important, there is no way to be conscious. You're just becoming self-defeating in the process, it doesn't matter how hard you try. The only and only reason why the entire world is not naturally enlightened is they're dead serious about their lives. They've not come to ease with their life, they're too serious about it. See, you've just been through an engineering online process. If you take the very solar system, in this cosmos, this solar system is a tiny speck. In that speck, planet Earth is a microspeck. In that microspeck, Los Angeles is a super microspeck. In that, you're a big man. This is a serious problem, it's not a small problem. So once you create this problem, then you cannot be conscious, you can only be mentally alert because it's all about survival. The more mentally alert you become, more you tend to become like a carnivorous animal. You know, a carnivorous animal is very mentally alert because every day he has to hunt his food. You know, I have spent so much time in the jungles in India, you must see a tiger, how alert he is, how alert he is. Because if he's not alert, he's not going to get food, he's going to die of starvation. He's got to be super alert to earn his food. Most people think tigers can kill what they want. No, it's very, very difficult for him to get his prey because all the herbivorous animals are faster than him and they sweat in the body, so they can run longer. He can only do one burst. In that burst he must catch, otherwise he gets hot, his body gets too hot, he cannot go. He just sits there helplessly because his body gets overheated. You must watch this whole game, how it goes on, how frustrated he is that he can't get his food. He knows his energy levels are going down and as time passes by, he will become more incapable of getting his food. You should see the anxiety on his face. So he is super alert. This is the nature of a carnivorous animal. Once your alertness, mental alertness goes that way, you become like a predator, always looking what you can get, what you can get, what you can get. It may be in whatever levels of life that people are involved in, but all the time they're trying to grab something because mental alertness creates that. I'm not saying you should not be alert, but if you're conscious and alert, then it works in a different way. But if you just ramp up your mental alertness, you will become like a hunter all the time, waiting, crouching for something.
And if I heard you correctly, many people who are pursuing consciousness end up just becoming more mentally alert. And so, how does one strive to have more consciousness, but if it's not something you can work at or work towards, what is the path?
See, the very question when you say to pursue consciousness, how will you pursue consciousness?
Or I guess a higher consciousness.
In which direction will you pursue?
I think in…
Because you are consciousness, isn't it? Where is the need to pursue this? See, we can pursue certain levels of competence in the world. See, we can pursue a skill, we can pursue certain levels of competence in the world which will make us a little better with whatever we are doing. But you cannot pursue consciousness. This has to come to ease, then only it'll become conscious. When it becomes very alert, it becomes like an animal. So, becoming an animal means it's not that something wrong, But in the evolutionary scale of things, you're going backwards. See, the most significant aspect of being human is this, that you can determine the nature, the scope and the pace of your evolution, unlike any other creature. This is the most important aspect of being human, that you can determine the nature, scope and the pace of your own evolution, which no other creature can determine. For them, nature pushes them at whatever pace it pushes them. That's what yoga means, tools of transformation, so that you can hasten your evolutionary process.
Good afternoon. Good to see such a big audience. I'm here with a man who has inspired millions of Indians to work for the environment and particularly to clean up and save the fantastic, beautiful big rivers of India. So I think we will explore a little bit what inspires you and then how you're able to inspire others, and then later we'll move on to maybe the more practical issues regarding how you can achieve such a big movement in India. But let's start there. I mean, how you have been inspired to start working for the environment.
Namaskaram. Good afternoon to everyone. My engagement with rivers and forests of southern India started very early for me. When I was 8, 9 years of age, if I got enough money to buy food for 3 to 4 days, I just managed this and disappeared into the jungles by myself. Well, it was a big concern for those who bore me, but
Your mother liked it or?
I just lived in the jungles and when I was there, I did not experience this as some kind of nature or natural beauty. I just saw it as a life larger than myself. And when I was 17, I floated down Kaveri river for 163 kilometers for 13 days, eating off the river, living off the river, just on 4 truck tubes and a few bamboos. And the river is a life beyond you and me. People like you and me come and go, but these rivers have been flowing for millions of years and they must flow forever. But such a mighty life, we've brought it down to its knees today. The rivers that I saw at that time, 50 years ago, and the rivers that I see today are just half of what they used to be. They say average depletion is around 44%, but many rivers are well below half, and many of them which were perennial for millions of years have become seasonal rivers. This year, Kaveri did not touch the ocean for 3.5 months. It dried up 170 kilometers inland. The entire length of Kaveri in Tamil Nadu, between these two states, Karnataka and Tamil Nadu, there is a big war for water. It's going on for the last 25 years. But the entire length of the river is only 430 kilometers. But it dried up 170 kilometers inland. And the sad part is when we did this painting competition across the country in over 160,000 schools, many children, when we asked them to paint a river, they just painted sand. This is the experience of the people.
And why is that? Why are they going so dry? Is agriculture? Why is it happening?
See, in India, only 4% of the river water is glacial or ice-fed. Rest is all forest-fed. Forest-fed essentially means we have rains. Unlike in Europe, we have rains for only on an average of 40 to 45 days across the country, which is our monsoon. This 45 days of precipitation, we are supposed to hold it in the land for 365 days and let it go in the river slowly. If this has to happen, substantial vegetation has to be there. There is a serious removal of vegetation, not only in the form of forests, but also in the farmlands there used to be vegetation. For example, in the Ganga basin, which amounts to 25% of India's geography and 33% of India's agricultural produce, in the last 50 years we have removed 94% of the green cover, 94%. This has happened mainly because I know this well because 45 years ago I was into farming and at that time when the new movement came of green revolution where we started using fertilizers for the first time, chemical fertilizers, fertilizer companies openly advised every farmer to remove all the trees because fertilizer gets absorbed by the aggressive root system of the trees and it will not produce yield for the crops. So, across the country in the last 35–40 years, a huge depletion of green cover happened. That is the main reason why waters have receded. Another thing is there is a serious exploitation of groundwater, which is an inevitable consequence of not having enough water in the rivers.
In your video you said something like, people believe that water brings forest, but the opposite is more true, forest brings water.
It is so, there is substantial science today to show you that it is the tree cover which attracts rain. And right now, we see that wherever the rains happen in India, the monsoon is becoming so scattered, though the same volume of water is coming down in principle. In the last 100 years, there's not been too much variation in the amount of water or the precipitation coming down on the Indian subcontinent. But where it is coming down, in what patterns it is coming down has completely altered, mainly because of lack of green cover. And today there is no more debate about it, everybody knows that it's the forests which draw water or rain.
This is part of the Bhuta Shuddhi tradition, where the fundamental process is to cleanse the elements in the system. If you are planning your Kumbh trip, do some sadhana and benefit from that process rather than make a ritual out of it. The cycles of the moon and the sun has a profound impact in the way we are. Celebrating this and finding ways to go beyond this is what Kumbh is. This is a profound understanding of the 12.25-year cycles of the sun. Who we are, the way we are, why we got shaped like this, is fundamentally because of the various forces that function upon us. Solar system being the main thing. In a way, the solar system is functioning like a potter's wheel. It functions like the potter's wheel and, well, you the pot, somebody wants to empty their pot. If only, if, for example, the planet decides to rotate a little faster than the way it is right now, all organisms on this planet will have to go through a dramatic change in the way they are. Probably the presently existing organisms, including us, would not survive a 2x speed of rotation. We are like this because we are a product of this system. Understanding the power of these cycles upon the human system, they identified places and situations which would be of maximum benefit to human well-being. So particularly they chose places where there is confluence of rivers, because where two rivers meet, there is a non-stop force. And our bodies of the 5 elements dominated by water. Over 72% of our body is water. So if you are in a place where there are churning waters at certain times, considering the latitude and at that time of the year or at that time of these 12-year cycles, the relationship between the planet and the sun, it creates a powerful situation where one can transform themselves. A lot of studies have been made on the previous Kumbh and they found phenomenal physiological changes in people who stayed there for over 40 days and every day they were in that water. A Kumbh Mela is supposed to be for 48 days. That is, people should stay there for 48 days, every day in the river along with the sadhana. This is part of the Bhuta Shuddhi tradition, where the fundamental process is to cleanse the elements in the system, and water being a major part of it. Water is considered very important for health, well-being, prosperity, whatever we are seeking in our lives. So this 48 days has particular specific sadhanas where people stayed there and went through this process and came out fully transformed because they made use of the natural forces to transform the quality of oneself, not just physiologically, even spiritually. But today people are going just one quick dip and out. That's a different game. There may be some benefit, we don't know, but it's too brief. When I watch people, they're just in and out in 3 minutes. That is too brief to have any kind of major impact except maybe an emotional involvement. I know you can't take off, maybe right now make up your mind on 48 days, but if you are planning your Kumbh trip, at least plan minimum 3 to 7 days, so that you are there, do some sadhana and benefit from that process, rather than make a ritual out of it. It is not a ritual, it's a scientific process. It's just that science has been lost and practice has been carried on. That's all that's happened. It's time to put back the science because only then we will benefit. It's time we approach these things with little more understanding and meaning to it so that one can really benefit rather than simply making a ritual out of it. For those of you who are thinking, what has it got to do with me? Because I live in an air-conditioned home. Well, to put it in a very fundamental way, if our mothers' bodies were not in sync with the cycles of the moon, we wouldn't be born. Yes, we wouldn't be born. So the cycles of the moon and the sun has a profound impact in the way we are. Acknowledging this, celebrating this, and finding ways to go beyond this is what Kumbh is what yoga is in many ways, to break the cycles of life. When I say cycles, anything that's cyclical is bound to be repetitive. If something is repetitive, that means it's not getting anywhere. This most people realize when they're close to their deathbed, that when they look back and see what looked like great things when they were doing it, when they look back and see, doesn't mean a thing. Those who look back and see are those who die and regret. But if you look ahead and see what you may do tomorrow, what you are very passionately waiting to do tomorrow, actually doesn't mean a thing, then you would look at life much more profoundly. The problem is not passion, the problem is not involvement, the problem is entanglement. The nature of entanglement is always cyclical. So these cycles are determining everything about the human being. If you're living in a physically, mentally very healthy state, your system will go through 12.25-year cycles. Just for example, if it falls to a 6-year cycle, that means you may still be successful in the world, but you will not know any peace or joy in your life, you're always… If it falls to 3-year cycles, you will have a hard time with the world around you and yourself. If you fall into 18-month cycles, you're on antidepressants. If you fall into 9 months, 3 months, 6-month cycles, you are in serious conditions of mental and physiological struggles. Now, The Kumbh comes from this understanding that you are trying to regularize your cycle to a 12-year cycle. If you carefully observe your life, the psychological situations, emotional situations, and also life situations, you will see a certain pattern to the cycles. If you look, you don't have to share this with anybody, it's not a confession. If you sit down and write down different things that have happened in your life, you will see a certain pattern. If it is falling into a 12-year cycle, you're in a reasonably good place. Health and being peaceful is not an issue. Now it's time to work for freedom. Time to work for mukti, that's what it means.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to not miss any new content and invite your friends to join us on this learning adventure. you.